Okay, so it's time. So I think we should start. Uh, okay, so I see a question. Yeah, good evening to everyone. Uh, so I see a question. Question is, when is the assignment date submission last date? So last day of submission of the assignment. I think if you open up the assignment, then it shows you on uh, NPTEL website. It shows you, like, I think for week 2 assignment, I think the last day is 11th. So like day after tomorrow. So yeah, so if you open up the NPTEL page, it shows you the due date, and for week 2 it is, I think, 11th. So I think it is every week Thursday, I think, is the deadline. So like for week 2 the deadline is 11th August. Okay, and okay, so let's get started. I guess others are also joining. Let me share my screen. uh, okay, sharing my screen. So okay, I hope my screen is visible. So for now I have turned off your mics, but I will turn it on when I start solving the questions. After a few more people join, I'll turn on the questions. But when I'm speaking, please, if you have some questions, or if you like, I'll be asking you the answers to the questions that I give. Please write them in the chat. Like, utilize the chat mostly, and if you have like, when I ask you, then if you want, you can turn on your mic, but mostly use the chat for so that you don't disturb others when I'm speaking. So mostly use the chat to write down your questions or concerns. Okay, so I think quite a few people have joined. So welcome to Joy of Computing Using Python tutorial session, and this is the second week. So last week, I think, last week we discussed some basic things about the course, and also uh, we discussed some basic questions in Scratch. But this course is obviously on Python, not on Scratch. So Scratch was there in week 1 just to give you a gentle introduction into programming. But yeah, this course is obviously about Python. So from this week 2 we have Python, and like, it is only basic stuff, and we'll be first we will be discussing some kind of like MCQs, and then we'll be doing some programming hands-on session. So I'll be asking some questions. So the goal of these sessions are uh, to increase interaction between the students and the course coordinators. So it will be very good if you don't just look into what I'm doing, but when I ask a question, I'll give you a few minutes, 3-4 minutes I'll give you per question to solve the question. So try to solve it on your own, and then if you can, or if you cannot, that's okay. Then when I will explain how to solve the question, but you should try to at least solve the question when I give you the question. Okay, so let's see how many people have joined. Okay, let's turn this off. Okay, I think quite a few people have joined, so we can start. Okay, so one question is, how can we submit the assignment? So you can submit the assignment on the NPTEL website itself. If you open up the NPTEL website and go to the week 2 of this course, then you will see there is a quiz, and there are some three programming assignments. So you need to go to the NPTEL course website and then click on week 2, and the deadline, like I said, is, I think, 11th. The day after tomorrow is the deadline, so do that for week 2. Okay, so let's get started with question 1. So I would like all of you to try to answer this, and once you have the answer, you can write it down in the chat. So fill in the blank. So what should be, so here's 2 lines of Python code. So what do you think should be in the blank, so that if you want to print the numbers from 0 to 10, then what should you write in the blank space? Like, what should you actually write for I in range, and then in brackets you have to write something. So what should you write? I see some answers coming. Yeah, I see different types of answers. So I'll wait for 2 more minutes. So some other people, like, you can just try and give whatever you want. It's okay if you are giving the wrong answer. You can just try to write what you want. Then I'll just look at the answers that you have provided, and then I'll okay. Okay, so yes, so I see quite a few different types of answers. Okay, so there are actually two correct answers. I see both of them have been given. Some other people have given some other things. So the correct answer is actually correct, and the shortest answer is if you just like write 11. So range 11 means 0 to 10. Basically, it will not count the last number. So it will start from 0 and it will end just before the number you've given. So it will end before 11. So that means it gives 0 to 10. Now I see some people. Let me bring up a text. Okay, let me increase the font size. Just a second. Okay, I think this is better. So I see some people have given, say, for I in range, say 0 to 10. So this is not the correct print I. So this is not the correct format of writing the range. So in range you can write either just say 11. So this will print from say 0 to 0, 1, 2 dot and then till up to 10. Or you can write, say, some people have also given 0, 11. So this is the second way of doing it. So you can specify what is the starting number and what is the number before which you wish to stop. So 11 will not be printed if you write this. And so so the correct answer is either just 11 or 0, 11. You cannot write, say, 0-11 or 02. This is not. So for English, when we are speaking, we can understand what you mean to say, but when you are writing down the code, this will not work. You have to write, say, 0, 11 or just 11. And I think that's all of the answers. So one person has written, I think, a condition. So 0 to something like 10, something like this. So this is, if you are using the for loop, then you cannot do it like this. So if you are using a while loop, say while I is less than 10, I equals to 0, I less than equals to 10. So this is another way of printing, say, the first 10 numbers. But for the given question, which uses the for loop, the correct answer is just 11 or 0, 11. Okay, I see these are the answers. Okay. Okay, I can just show you the output also. Here I have. So I hope everyone has somewhere to code Python. Either you have Spider, like it was shown on the course website. So I have Spider. I use Spider as my daily, like, to do all my work. I use Spider itself. Or you can also use some online. So if you don't have say Spider installed right now, you can also say use another, say, if you just search with, say, Python online compiler. If you don't have something installed, you can just go to this website, say Python online Python, and you can just write your code here and run it. But for now I'll just use Spider, which comes with the anaconda package. So just for this example I showed, so if you run this, it will give you sorry, so this was actually wrong. So you have to, if you use while, then you also have to increase the value of I. So this will print, say, and one thing you should be very careful with Python is, which is not so important with other programming languages, is that you should always take care of your indentation, like these spaces that come before the line. So you can give space or you can give a tab, but make sure that everywhere in your program it is the same. So you can use, say, a tab or a space. So I use spaces. So 8 spaces I use, but make sure that this indentation is same. Otherwise you will get something like this error, because earlier I had tabs and spaces combined. So now I have fixed it, and it will print up to, say, 10. And initially the code that was given, so the initial code was for say I in range 11, and you don't need this. So this was the initial code. If you run this, you can see the numbers have from 0 to 1. So I hope this text is visible. If it is appearing too small, let me know. I can just increase the font size a little bit more so that it is visible. Okay, any questions? In case you want to multiply I with the number, what to do? Okay, good question. Difference of two numbers, this is correct or not correct? So this is, I think, the assignment. So we are not discussing the assignment right now. We are discussing some other question, but I'll come to that later on. Okay, we are not discussing the current assignment. We are discussing, this is a tutorial session for the questions. So we are discussing some questions, but okay, I can come to that question later on. So if you want to multiply, so one question was, if you want to multiply I with the number. So I did not get what you mean to say multiply I with the number. So suppose you want to do a multiplication of number. So if you have a number num equals to 1, I think I have a question. So let's move on. I think I have a question which actually performs multiplication. So we'll come to that later on. Okay, so let's move on to question number 2. So I would like you to try this question out too, and then put the answers in the chat. So fill in the blanks again to print multiples of 7 between 0 to 100. So earlier we printed just, say, numbers from 0 to 10. So now we want to print all the multiples of 7 between, say, 0 to 100. So what should we write? So just think about it for a couple of minutes, and then you can put your answer in the chat. Okay, again, there are different ways to do it. So obviously you can do it with a while loop, but here we are using a for loop to do it. So what do you think should be the answer? Okay, I see a few more answers. Anyone has any different answers? Okay, so I see two different types of answers. So many people have given the same answer, and one person has given a slightly different answer, but that is not the same format, but that is also a correct answer. I'll show you. Okay, someone says by using the conditional statement, so that is correct. So okay, so I'll show you. So one thing is, the answer, in the answers all of you have written 101, so that is actually correct. So actually it depends on if you want to use 100 or 101, that depends, because anyway 100 is not a multiple of 7, so it does not matter in this case, but I've written. But so what this code is doing is basically I will have each of the values between 0 to 100, or you can also put 101 like some people have given. So 0 to 100, and every 7th number will be printed. So first 0, and then 7, and then it will go on between that. So does this give a correct answer? Let's see. So we'll just run it and see if this gives the correct answer. So what we want to do, so we'll just run it, and does this give the correct answer? Yes. So it prints 0 and 7, 14, and like all of the numbers. Now so most of you in the chat have actually given, say, 101. So in that case also the answer will be the same, because 100 is not a multiple of 7. But yeah, if you had some number say if you had to take an input. So if you want to take the end as input, so suppose we want to take say a number or end, let's call it end equals to input, enter a number, and then if you want to put end here, then we probably would like to do it like this, say end plus 1, so we actually reach till end. So suppose I run it, then it will ask me for it gives me some error. Okay, I think input causes some problems, so apparently I cannot run input. Okay, but I think I can run input on, just a second. Does it work? I guess not. Okay, I can just run it on, say, the online compiler, online Python compiler. So yeah, we'll also test this out. So suppose this is your code. So end equals to input, enter a number, and then this is the code. We want to put, say, end plus 1. Okay, let me increase the font size a bit. I think this is better. So end plus 1. So if this is the code, and if we run it, then it will first ask me for a number. Say I give, say, 21. Oh, so it will give, firstly it will give an error because we have not converted the number to an integer. So what we should do is we should convert the number to an integer. So this is the shortcut way of doing it. We just convert it to int directly, and then again it will ask for a number. Say we give 21. So now it will print. So it will print 0, 7, 14, 21. Okay, so multiples of 7. So I think someone else had given another yes, so typecasting required. Some people have told it, so it is the right answer. So another person had given, I think, a slightly different answer, which was so instead of giving, say, instead of writing, say, 101 here, so another way of doing it, so if you don't want to use you want to use just the range normally, you can also use say if statement. So you can do it like this: if I %7 equals to 0, then print I. So what this means is that so you are checking, so this percentage sign, if you know it, this means the remainder. So what is the remainder when you divide I by 7? So if the remainder is 0, that means that I is a multiple of 7. So if the remainder when you divide I by 7 is 0, which means I is a multiple of 7, then print I. So if we run this, it will give us the same answer, which is like all multiples of 7. So this is another way to do it. So okay, so one person is asking the rationale behind adding 7 at the third place. So if you go back to the previous code, so yeah, so range. So one thing about Python is, if you are confused about what something does, like this function, what is range doing? So one thing you can do is, if you have spider, so you can write range and then question mark, then it will show you the information for this, what is range doing. So it will tell you actually. So you can either give range stop, then it will, or you can give start, stop, and a step. So what this does is, it tells you here why are we putting 7 in the third place, is that so it will produce numbers between, so if you just say give I and j, then it will produce numbers I plus 1, I plus 2 up to j minus 1. And if we give the step, then it will like when step is given, it specifies the increment. So if you give 7, so it will move in increments of 7. So instead of, say, I plus 1, it will move I plus step, I plus 2 into step. So, and if the step is 7 in this case, then it will be I plus 7, I plus 14, and so on. And if you are on normal Python, you can also do, if you want to look at the help, you can also do help, say range. So this will also work. This will also show you the what is it doing, the same thing. So if you don't know what something does, then it will show you. Or say about print, if you want to know what print does, so if you do print question mark, it will show you what print does. Okay, some other questions. Yeah, so sir, my spider is not taking input comment. So yeah, so I also see that uh, my in my spider also the input was not working. So what you can do is like I did. So you can just open up this onlinepython.com, this website, and you can try it out your code here. Or if you are on say Linux or even on Windows, you can just open up your terminal. On Windows, if you write like if you have the IPython terminal, or in on Linux or and Mac, you can just open up any terminal and let me just increase the font size a bit. So you can just write say IPython or just Python, and you can type your code here also. You can, for example, say a equals to int input, something like this, and it will work. So if you give 45, so a is 45. So you can also use this. You can use this from the command line, you can use, or you can use the online compiler. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the next question. So this question is what is the output of the following code? So again, try it out on your own and then try to give the results in the chat. So what would be the output of the following code? So we are setting b to 0, and then for I in range 10, b plus equals to I, and then we are printing b at the end. So what will be the answer? So I see some answers coming. Someone else will wait for 2-3 more minutes. So yes, so I see quite a few different answers for this one, so people are a bit confused. So one thing I would like to say is so we are printing b, not I. That's what I would like to say. And this print is actually outside the loop. That is another thing. So we are not printing inside the loop, we are printing outside the loop. That is another thing that you should think about. Yes, so I think now people are coming up with the correct answer. So yes, so the correct answer is actually 45, because we are basically adding up all numbers from 0 to 9. So what is happening is, so like with the first question, so the first question was say this one. So how do you print all the numbers from 0 to 10? So we had put in 11 here. So we know that this will print all the numbers from 0 to 10. So the value of I in each iteration of the loop, the value of I will be first, I will be 0, then I will be 1, then I will be 2, up to I will be 10. So in this question, firstly, one thing is different is we are going up to range 10. So that means actually we are going from 0 to 9. Okay. So the value of I will start from 0, then 1, and then the value of I will end at 9, not 10. Okay. And at each iteration, what are we doing? So we are adding the value of I to b. So initially the value of b was 0, but then we are adding the current value of I to b. So if we just try to see what is happening, so initially say b is 0, and initially say in the first iteration of the loop, so I'll just do it like this. So in the first iteration of the loop, I is say 0, and then we come to this line, b plus equals to I. So what this means is b equals to b plus I. Okay. So this basically means b plus equals to I. This is basically b equals to b plus I. I. So both of these are the same things. So what are we doing here is so in each iteration of the loop, so we are doing b equals to b plus I. So now 0 plus 0 plus 0 is basically 0, so b will stay 0. So next iteration of the loop, I will become 1. Okay. So now we are again doing the same thing, b equals to b plus I. So now b will become 0 plus 1, so which is 1. then I will become, in the next iteration, I will become 2. Again we are doing b plus equals to I, so the value of b is 1 and we are doing 1 plus 2, so b will become 3. Okay, next I will become 3, and again b equals to b plus I, so it will become 6. So I'm speeding up a bit. So next I will become 4, and then the value of b will be 6 plus 4, so 10, and so on. Will go on until 9, and you know the like sum of first. So we are basically computing the sum of say first 10 numbers including 0, so 0 to 9. So if we add that up, the value of b will become 45, and then we are finally printing that value, and so the output of this code will be 45. So from the answers, yeah, so I see two misconceptions. So one thing is that so the print is outside of the loop, so we are not printing each time. Okay, and we are printing the value of b, not I. If you are printing I, then we would say 0 1 2 3 4 5, like the first question. In the first question we are say printing I, so that's why we saw like 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, here we are not printing I, we are printing the value of b, and so we will not see say 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, so we will not see that. We are printing the value of b, and also we will not see the value of b at each step. So we had seen the value of b as 0 1 2 then 3, then 5, then so on, sorry 6, and then 10. So we will not see the individual values of b since the b is outside the loop. So we will see the value of b at the end of the loop. So we can just test this out quickly. So I'll just paste it here. So this is the code. So if we run it, we can see that it has printed out 45. Okay, any other? So I think these were the misconceptions. Okay, so that's good. Let's move on to the next question. Let's hurry up a bit. I think okay. So this is a slightly different question. So till now we were working with loops, for loop. So this is a question about say if statements, conditional. So again, what will be the answer of this question? What do you think? You can put it on chat. So we have a number in which we are performing some calculations, and then we are doing some checking and then printing according to it. So will this print? Will this like make some error? Will it actually print? Will it do some errors? What do you think? So you can write, you can think about it for 2 minutes, and then you can yeah, put it in the chat. What do you think is the answer? Wait for 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, I see some people have given few different answers. We'll wait for another minute. So you can write, even if you are not sure, you can just write in the chat. Okay. Okay. Okay, quite a few people have. I think I see mainly 2 answers. Mainly I can see. So no one has picked less than 1, sadly. So I see quite a few people have given greater than 1, and quite a few people have given equal to 1. So there is, I think, one misconception with the precedence. So I'll come to it. And I think one person has also given error. I think I have seen one person had given error. So I actually did mention error because just to confuse you a bit, but this will not give an error. So the error, I think what you think is coming from is, since we have given like print on the same line. So I think okay, so I need to change these, I think, firstly. So I'll just change these once a minute. So yeah, so the oh sorry, okay, so this is the code. So I think traditionally you have seen people write like this, say like this, something like this. So you give a, say, for loop or a if statement, and then you go to the next line, and then you start writing, say, and things over here, right? So but this is a shortcut, you can say. So if you only want to run, say, one line of command, only one command, then you can also write it in the same line. So this is also correct. So this should also work. Okay. And so if we run this, so let's see what is the answer. So the answer is greater than 1. So why did this happen? So that means that the value of the number, so we can actually write in the console what is the value. We can see the number is actually 4. So why is it 4? So I think some people are confused with the precedence. So which operation is going, like, happening earlier? So is the division, do we do the division first, or do we do this multiplication first? Okay, so like in mathematics, so I think in childhood we learned the Bodmas rule, BODMAS rule, or some other people know it by some other thing. So we know that the division happens first, right? So here also the same thing will happen. So first the division will happen. So first we'll do 20 by 10, which comes 2, and then 2 into 2 is 4. So that is, so if you want to, so the people who have written down equal to 1, so if you want to actually do the multiplication first, then you have to give brackets. So if we now run it, we can see that it has printed equal to 1. Okay, so the ordering is same as the normal mathematics, Bodmas rule. So yeah, division first, then next is the multiplication. Okay, any questions? Division. Okay, no questions. I think this was pretty simple. Okay, let's go to the next question. So the answer is 4. So the number is 4, so the output is GT1. Okay, so next MCQ is not MCQ but short question is, so yeah, so multiplication here. So what will be the output of the following code? So slightly more advanced, but still not too difficult. You can try it out on your own. And so what will be the output of this code? So we are setting a to 1, then we are going inside a while loop, and then at the end we are also printing something. So what do you think will be the output? Can you just write it down in the chat? Just take 2 minutes and then you write it down in the chat. Okay, I see one answer. Some other people also. I'll wait for 2 more minutes. This is slightly a little bit more difficult comparatively, so I'll wait for a couple of more minutes, but I want to see some more answers. Okay, so yeah, one thing is one thing is that note that there are 2 print statements. So one print statement is inside the loop and one is outside the loop. So note that. Oops. Okay, so I see a few different types of answers. Yeah, so I see some people have given the correct answer. Okay, so yeah, so one thing is yeah, the answer I have given here is slightly incorrect. So I will Yeah, I forgotten to put it here. So let's not. I'll update it when I upload the slides. I will put in the updated answer. But yeah, so let's try to solve it ourselves. So without code, let's try to just. So when you are presented with a question like this, like which tells you to print some output or calculate the value, so it's best to actually write down. So I'm writing down here in a notepad kind of thing, but you can also do it in pen and paper. So let's just try to run through the program and see what gets printed. Okay, so initially we have the value of a equals to 1. Okay, the first line of code is a equals to 1. So now we are going into the loop. So we are checking while a is less than 50. So is a less than 50? Yes, because a is 1 and 1 is less than 50. So the condition is satisfied and we go inside the loop. So inside the loop, what are we doing? The first thing inside the loop is a into equals to 2. That means a, so similar to previous, like plus equals to 2, a into equals to 2. This means that a equals to a into 2. Okay, so these two things are the same thing. So we are doing a into equals to 2. So basically a equals to a into 2. So 1 into 2, 1 into 2. So how much is it? It is 2. Okay, and then we are printing the value of a followed by a comma. Okay, so what are we printing? So output will be 2 comma, right? And what print statement does is it goes to the new line. Okay, so print statement sends you to the new line. So again we go to the same while loop again. We check if a is less than 50. So 2 is less than 50. Yes. So again we go inside the loop and a equals to a into 2. So now 2 into 2, it becomes 4. So a becomes 4. Now we print the value of a again followed by a comma. So we print 4 comma, and print statement always goes to the new line. So we'll go to the new line. Okay, so this is something that many people have missed. So it will go to the next line. And yes, so again we check, we go back to the start of the loop. We check, is a less than 50? Yes, 4 is less than 50. So we again do a equals to a into 2. So a becomes 8, and then we print the value of 8 comma. Okay, and so on and so forth. So next again we check for 8 is less than 50. Yes, so it will become 16. So I'll speed up a bit, 16 comma. Then next time again it will become 32. We'll print out say 32 comma, and then last time, so when it becomes 32, we printed out 32. So it checks if a is less than 50. Yes, a is less than 50. So we go inside the loop. A becomes 64. We print out 64 comma. Okay, and then next time when we go back to the start of the loop, we see that 64 is greater than 50. So this condition is not satisfied. So we'll not go inside the loop, we'll go outside the loop. Okay, so outside the loop we just print a. So the value of a is still 64. So we will print 64. Okay. Okay. Yes. So this is your output. So I actually meant to print only 164, but this is for the given code. This is the output, and I see some people have given this. So they should be in separate lines. So that is one common thing I see that is wrong. So they all should be in different lines, and yeah, so multiples of 2 basically. Okay. So so this answer is wrong. I will correct this answer before uploading the slides. So suppose we want to print say okay, sorry. So suppose we want to print, I'll just show it here. So suppose instead of this we want to print say 2 comma 4 comma say 8 comma 16 comma 32 comma 64. So if you want to print this, okay, so how do we change the code? Or say if you want to print say 64 64, something like this. So instead of new lines we want to print on the same line. So what change do we need to do? Any ideas? You can write it in the chat if you know it. Yes, so there are different ways of doing it. So I see one answer. Okay, so this is yeah, I see a question about the previous thing. So you can write it in the chat. So there's a question that why 64 was printed 2 times. Okay, so let's go back and just discuss. So let's go back to the previous case. So where we were. So suppose we are here. So let's say we are starting from this position. So value of a is 32 and we are at the start of the loop. Okay, so we are checking if a is less than 50. Okay, so we have already printed 32 and now we are gone back to the start of the loop. A is 32, so we are checking if a is less than 50 or not. Okay, so yes, a is less than 50 because a is 32. So we go inside the loop and a becomes a multiplied by 2, so a becomes 64. Okay, and then next line is we print out the value of a. So we print out 64 comma. Okay, so next thing is again we go to the start of the loop. Now we check if a is less than 50. So a is not less than 50 anymore, so a is 64 is greater than 50. So the condition is not correct. Okay, so we'll not go inside the loop anymore, we'll come outside the loop. So outside the loop there is this one statement, print a. So that's why 64 is getting printed again. So the last value of a is 64, so that's why 64 is getting printed because of this outer print statement which is outside the loop. You could have also printed something else. So okay, so I see yes, so I see some correct answers. So yeah, end is yeah, so I think that is correct. So what you need to do to say print out in the same line, if you want to print it out in the same line, say like this. Oh, sorry. So if you want to print it out in the same line, then yes, so you have to use the end function, end equals to comma, like some people have said. So in the print, oh wait, just a second. Okay, so there are two ways of doing it. So I have given a dash here if you want to print out say dashes instead of commas. So one thing is you can do it, you can print the dash or the comma, and you can just do end equals to nothing, end equals to empty character, or you can also do end equals to say comma or dash. So we'll just test it out really quickly. So if you want to print say let's just copy this code. So if you have this code, so these two lines are inside. Okay, I need to change these. So if you want to print commas itself, so this is one way of doing it. So if you do this, then it will print out. So I have some extra space, I think, but okay, yeah, space for the comma. Yeah, so this is one way of doing it, which prints out the commas in between. Or if you want, you can do it, you can add a space here, that will also print out spaces like this. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. And the other way, as some people have pointed out, so you can also do end equals to comma. So if you print out this, then it will print in the same way. You can add some spaces if you want. So what this end does is, by default, if you don't write anything, so if you don't write anything, end will become new line. So so if you want to go to the next line, you have to write /n. So this is like a special, you can say special character, a special command you can say. So /n, if you write /n means go to the next line. So if you just say print say /n, say a /n b. So if you run this, let me just remove the excess code. So yeah, so if you just print this a /n b, then you will see that they are printed in the different lines, and there is a space before b. So if you write something like this, then you will see that it is getting printed in the new line. So /n means actually go to the new line, go to the next line. Okay, so by default, if you don't put anything, if you just put print something, then it will go to the new line, because by default end is like this. Okay, end will go to the new line. But if you don't want it to go to the new line, then you can do just empty. If you just want to not do anything, print say b, b. Okay. So if you do this, you will see that it is just ab. So it is not going to the new line. Now if you want to put a comma, then you can put a comma, and will give a comma. So this is what comes after your print statement. Okay. So by default it goes to the new line. If you don't want it to go to the new line, then you can just do just empty string, or like empty quotes, and or you can put comma and something. So okay, is this video recorded? Yes, this video is getting recorded. It will be uploaded to the NPTEL website on YouTube. Okay, without any spaces. How do we print this, sir? So without any spaces, meanings between the characters 2 and 4. So if you want to print without any spaces, so that is not too difficult. So if we just go back to the code, so if you want to print without spaces, you can just do this. So this will just print it without spaces. This will print it out without spaces. And if you want to say, if you don't want to print 64 2 times, then one simple way is to actually print first and then multiply by 2. This is the other way. So if you run this, this will print 64 one time, but it will also add 1. Okay. So make sure of what the question is asking. Okay. So this will print it without spaces. And there is another command if you don't know. So yeah, so let's just talk about it for a little bit. So if you just give comma like I showed you in the beginning. So if you do this, you are still seeing some spaces, because by default if you print something, say print b. So if you do print a comma b separately, or something like if say number equals to 5. So if you want to print the number, say number equals to. So if you want to print this, so it will automatically add a space. Number equals to 5. You can see there is a space before 5. So suppose you don't want this space. So what can you do? So for that, like we have end, so we also have the sep, which stands for separator. So by default sep is like one space. So you can just do it like remove the space. So that will become, then it will remove the space. So if you want to print something like, you can also do something like this, number. Okay, so this will also print the same thing. So instead of putting the like separator here, it will put the separator here. So if you want to print multiple things after say number, and then suppose you want to put number plus 1, okay, you can also write comments like this. You can put spaces in between. So if you want to print something like this, okay, num plus 1. Okay, so this will just print, as you can imagine, this will just print the number and then number, and that is equals to number plus 1. And if we just put yeah, equals to this, so it will just print something like this. Okay, so instead of spaces in between, now it is adding equal to in between. So number equals to 5, number plus 1 equals to 6. Okay, so notice that we have actually put in brackets here, so that number plus 1 is first getting calculated and then it is being printed. Okay, so if you write like this, I think it should be the same thing, but yeah, in some cases it can be problematic if you are working with strings, but okay, anyway, I think for now it is okay. Let's go on to the next question. Okay, so okay, now let's go to a couple of, so we don't have a lot of time, but we'll just write a couple of programs which are very simple. So initially I think question 2 or 3 was to print out say the multiples of 7 only up to 100. So if you have to write a program to print numbers which are multiples of 5 or 7, so it can be say 5, 7, 10, 14, 15 and so on. So how do you print this? So you have to write a short code for this. So try it out on your own. Okay, I don't think there is a lot of time, so I'll just I think I'll write the code myself and explain on the way. If you think you can solve this, you can solve it side by side. I'll just like solve it side to side with me. So basically we want to say print the numbers which are multiples of 100, sorry, 5 or 7. Okay, let's do full screen itself. So I hope you know how to add comments. If not, so comment is something. So if you write something, print hello. So if you write something, we're starting with a hash, then that line will be ignored by Python basically. So this is like a comment. This is for your understanding. So I will just write here something like, say, code to. So this like writing comments is really helpful when you're writing in your future, when you're writing, say, advanced codes. Then if you write comments in between, so it will help you like understand what is each part doing. So we'll try this code with some comments. So first we write what is this like whole file doing. So code to print numbers which are multiples of 5 or 7. Okay, so this is a comment about what the file is doing. So this part will be when we just run it, Python will just ignore these lines. Okay, so these are for your own, like for you to understand what your code is doing. Okay, so now if you want to write this code, so first what do we have to do? So again, let's do it with, say, for loop. So for I in range say 101. So you want to print numbers up to 100. So now what do we do? Yeah, so now one person has given something like 0, 7. So this is what we did earlier. So this will, if we do print I, so if we do this, it will only print the multiples of 7. Okay, and if we write 5 here, it will only print the multiples of 5. But we want to print the numbers which are either multiples of 5 or multiples of 7. So for that we have to do slightly differently. So for this, someone had given the answer earlier in this way. So yeah, so I see some correct answers and some slightly correct but slightly wrong answers. So okay, so the easiest way to do it is to use a if statement. So we want to check again, we want to check if the number is divisible by 5. So for that we again use the percentage operator, which is like called the modulus. So I modulus 5. So it is like this percentage, this is called the modulus operator, and it is not the modulus as math modulus, which is like the absolute value. So this modulus operator is actually for, like I said, so this is for the remainder when you divide. So if you divide I by 5, then what is the remainder that you get? Okay, and if the remainder is 0, then you know that it is a multiple of 5, right? So the easiest way to do it is, so if you don't know, if you know only the basics, so this is the right way to do it. I'm just copy pasting. So yeah, so if it is a multiple of 5, then you do, and if it is a multiple of 7, then, but this has one problem, this code. Okay, so can anyone guess what the problem is if we just write this code? Let's wait for a minute if anyone knows what is the problem with this code before I run it. Parenthesis, no parenthesis, we don't need to. Yeah, like in other languages like in C, C++, Java, you need to put parenthesis before if statements, but in Python you need not, or say like this, sorry. So in C, C++, Java you have to put parenthesis, but in Python you may or may not give, it does not matter. So like I have given one with and one without parenthesis, so that is not the, yes, so elif, so yes, exactly. So if we just run the code like this, so for some cases where the numbers are both multiples of 5 and 7, like 35, so 35 is a multiple of 7 and 5, we can see that 35 is getting printed 2 times, also 70. So we don't want that. So how to change it is elif. So elif basically means if this statement condition is true, then you don't check this condition. Okay, so but if this condition is false, then you check this condition, the second condition. So earlier what we had, so we were checking if I is multiple of 5, then print I, and then we check again if I is multiple of 7, then we print I. Okay, so that is okay, but in some cases, like when like 35, where the number is multiple of both, then it is printing it twice. So we don't want that. We want to do elif. So if you know some other languages, then say in C++ we used to write say else if. So this is the same thing as else if, but in Python we write it for short, we write it elif. Okay. So if the first condition is true, then you print, but you don't go to this second if statement. Okay. But if it is false, then you check the next statement. And if it is false, then again you go back to. And there's also else statement, like if you default. So if you want to say say just give a print nothing, or say if you so one more thing is pass. So if you have a indented code, so in C++, if you wanted to write say nothing, so you could have just given say like this, curly brackets start close. If you want to give do nothing, so you can write pass. So pass means basically do nothing. Okay, or you can just also give print say just say h or something. So if we print this, we can see that, okay, let's reduce the number a bit to say 50 or say 40. Okay, so you can see now all of the numbers. So 0 is a multiple, and then h for the numbers which are not there. So else, and then so what is happening here is, so we are first checking this condition. So if I is a multiple of 5, if yes, then we are printing 5. If not, then next we are checking if I is a multiple of 7. If yes, then we are printing 7. If not, then else. If all of the conditions are false, then we print h. Okay, so we are printing h. So the lots of so one person has so next thing is like one person has pointed out correctly. So the other way to do it, and the shorter way to do it, is, so instead of giving two commands like this, you can also put it in the same. So I think someone had given an answer like this. Since let's just remove the parenthesis, we don't need the parenthesis in Python. So I think so if suppose we do this 7, so if we do this, so this is how you would do in other languages, like this is the or, basically some condition or, but in Python you just write or, and you can also write and. You just write and or. So in this case we have to write or. So if, so you can just read it out, like if I is a multiple of 5, or I is a multiple of 7, then you print I. So this is just doing the work of two statements in like in one line. And yeah, that's the beauty of Python. You can do basically everything in like very short. Okay, so this is the short form of basically this. The even short form would be something like I think something like this. I think this is even the shorter form, but let's not go into how this is working. Okay, this is I think the shortest you can do, but okay, let's not do this. Okay, anyway, I think let's go to the next question. I think this is the last question for okay, this is very simple. I think let's go to the this question. Let's solve this question. So we want to suppose write a program to print this this pattern. So if we have to take an input from the user, say input is 5, and then we want to print say 5 rows of stars. In each row we are doing like one extra star. Okay, so how do you print it? So since we don't have a lot of time, I'm just showing you the results. So let's keep this. Let's write another file. Okay. Okay, let's again add a comment, print star patterns in a triangle shape. Okay, so what do we need to do? So first you have to understand what is the pattern going on. So you can see, so firstly you can see there are, for input 5 we have 5 lines. Okay. So first thing is, you know that we need to have a loop that runs 5 times. And so what is happening in each line, we can see that we are printing a certain amount of stars. So in first line we are printing 1 star, in second line we are printing 2 stars, and so on. Okay. So we can already see some patterns of what is happening here. So first we know that outer loop, like we can see there are 5 rows. So we need to have a for loop which runs for 5 loops. Now you can do both this, or you can also do 1 comma 6. You can do either of these. Both of these will run 5 times. So I'll just do this. So you know that this runs 5 times, basically from 1 to 5. And so we can print some star. Say we are printing a star. Okay. So what this will do, this will just print 5 lines of stars. Okay. So but we don't want this. We want in each line, we want to print multiple stars. Okay. So in the first line we want to print 1 star. In the second line we want to print 2 stars, and so on. So we have to, what do we have to do? So for each row we have to print multiple times star. So for that we need another loop. So we will do for j in range. So now what is the range? That can someone tell me? How many times should we print? So this is for end equals to, yeah. So how many times should each row run? So what should we write here, basically, is what I'm asking. What should we put in here? Okay. So some people give I, some people give 1 to I minus 1 or 1 to I plus 1. So both are correct, actually. So you can, so basically for each line you can you have to print that number of times. So you can see the value of I is basically, for the first line the value of I is 1, and you have to print the star I times, right? So you can just give here I. So this is, so you are running this loop for I times. So if you just run this, it will all print everything in the same line because we have done this. So what you need to do is, after each inner loop you have to also do this. So after each inner loop you are going to the new line. So this is what you want to print. And also you can do, say, 1 comma I plus 1. This will also do the same thing, basically. Print it these many times. So I hope you, so I already discussed, if someone joined late, this, what this end does is, by default your print statement goes to the new line, next line. So if you don't want the print statement to go to the next line, then you do something like end equals to some empty quotes. So this means that it will not go to the next line, but then we want it to go to the next line after each row. So that's why we are adding a extra print statement. So this is how you do it. And if you want to take as input, then obviously you can do n equals to input, and you have to convert it to integer. So int input, and then you put n over here, sorry, n plus 1. So this will, if you want to take an input and run, then this is the code you have to do. So someone has given a code, s star for print s into I. Yes, so you are using, so Aishwarya, you are using the string operators. I was not going into the string operators because they have not been taught yet, but yes, that is correct. Okay, input, yes, so Gangalaya, so your code is almost okay, just the I needs to be 1 to n plus 1. Okay. If you want to write, say, 0 to n, then you have to change this to, say, I plus, say something like this, 1 to I plus 1. So you have to, when you are in doubt, not sure, always try to, so if you have a computer with Python installed, you can just run it and see what output you are getting. Oh, input does not work. Okay, let's just put 5 here. Okay, if you just put 5, so if you do something like this, this works. So if you do something like this, then you will see that it is printing the wrong result, right? So you have to understand how it is happening. So for that, you can manually you can check the values. You can like I was doing, you can write down the values of each variable, what it is going, and do it by hand with a small example, and then you will understand where you are going wrong. So here you can, if you do it by hand, then you will see that this I needs to be +1 in this case. So always when you are in doubt, you can just write down the values by hand. What is the value of each variable? What is getting printed? That way it will be easier for you to. Yes. So one is, can we do a pyramid like? Yeah. So the next question was actually. So okay, I think I can solve it quickly. Let's just solve this quickly. So one thing is like suppose we want to do a pattern like this. Okay. So input is 4, and we want to print 4 lines in a like pyramid shape. Okay, so let's just do this quickly. So this is very similar to the code that we already have. Let's just copy paste into another file. I'll just increase the size a bit. So to do this, okay, say input is 4 in a pyramid shape, okay. So what do we need to do? So we need to understand what is the pattern going on here. So again, you will see there are like n number of lines. Okay, so 4 is the input and there are 4 lines. So you can understand that this first loop will go till n, or you can also do say 1 to n plus 1. Let's do this. Okay, so this much you can understand that this much will be the same. This much will be the same because here also input is 4 and there are 4 lines. So you have to print, and after doing something here, you know you have to go to the new line. So this part will also stay the same. That you can understand from just looking at the number of rows. But what has changed here is the stars are now like little bit indented. So they are starting from the middle. They are not starting from the left. Okay. So you have to leave some spaces. You have to give some spaces, print some spaces before each star. So how many spaces before the first star? So you can see 1, 2, 3. So three spaces before the first star, followed by 1 star. Okay, then 2 spaces followed by 3 stars, then 1 space followed by 5 stars. So we can see a pattern, right? The number of spaces, first it was 3, then it is going to 2, then it's going to 1 space, and then it's going to 0 space. Okay, and the stars are also increasing like this. First 1 star, then 3 stars, then 5 stars. Okay, so where is it? Okay, so so first let's print the spaces. Okay, we'll just print the spaces followed by a star, 1 star, and then we'll go to the new line. Okay, let's just print. So how many spaces do you think we should print? So print space and then end with so if you want to print say spaces, so how many spaces do we need to print? That we need to figure out. So basically what do we need to put over here? Basically that is what we want to do. So since time is less, you can think, but I'll just tell the answer. We already over time. So we want to print say, first we want to print say 3, and then we want to print 2, then we want to print 1 space, then we want to print 0 space. So you can see that we are going n minus I times. So first n is 4 always, n is not changing, n is 4 always. So first I is 1, so n minus I is 3. So you know that we are printing first 3 spaces, then I will become 2, we are printing 2 spaces, then I will become 3, we are printing 1 space. So if we run this, you can see that we are getting the shape, basic shape we are getting, but obviously we need to print more number of stars, but at least the spaces are correct, coming out correctly. So that part, this part is correct. Okay, now if you want to print multiple stars, so that is slightly easier. So we need another loop. So we just copy paste, and so how many times should we print this? How many times should we print this? This should be easier. So we want to print say, so first time we are printing 1, then we are printing 3, then 5, then 7. Okay, so we are basically printing how many are we printing? Can anyone tell? So yeah, we are not actually printing I number of times. So if we just print out I number of times, it will just become like this. So we want to print so actually it is yeah so actually we want to print something like 2 times I minus 1. So this is what we are trying to print, because so I is first 1 and we also want to print 1 star. So 2 into I is 1 minus 2 into I is 2 minus 1 is 1. Next I becomes 2, and then so 2 into I is 4 minus 1 is 3. So this is basically, it means that we are going through all the odd numbers. Okay. So other way to do it would be something like, say something like odd numbers is, so 1 2 2 into I and then 2, something like this. I think this will give the same answer. Okay, no. Okay, so 3 into I, sorry, or not, 4 into I. Okay, so this is how you can actually test out which is what is working and what is not working. But okay, so this is not working apparently, but okay, so let's go back to what it was. So yeah, so this is what how you can do the calculations for when you have to print something like this. Okay, so you can just write down like pen and paper what you need to print, and then check all the values, and yeah, do it by hand. So okay, so I think we are already over time, and so I'll be uploading this video, and I'll update the slides where the answers were wrong, and I also add these programs as answers. These 3 programs, I'll add them as answers. And yeah, so thank you for attending the session, and hope to see you next week. Okay, one thing is okay, let me just tell you one thing. So this is, I have made a feedback form kind of thing, so I'll just paste the link in the chat also. So if you have any feedback about this particular session, not the course overall, don't provide feedback about the Python course, just provide feedback about this particular session that I am taking. Okay, I'm also pasting it in the chat. You can just provide your feedback there, and I'll try to incorporate that into next week's class. Okay, and so yeah, so that's it, and you can now leave. I'll wait for 2 more minutes so that you can click the link if you want, and then I'll stop it.